Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you like any of the videos, you like what you're hearing, you like what you're seeing, please hit the like button, subscribe button, share it out. Here we talk any sports, but it's been mainly football. We get some great coaches on here. Anybody that wants to come on and talk some ball, you guys got an offensive play you like, offense you just want to talk about, defense, a drill, anything unique you do, or if it's just as simple as ever and you want to come on here and present or talk, please reach out. I love talking ball. I love meeting people and building these relationships. I'm having fun. So please share this out. Let's get this growing. I appreciate all of you, and I hope you enjoy the channel. Hey guys, welcome back to the Sideline Podcast with Coach Steve. I'm Coach Steve. Today's guest, I have the man, the myth, the legend, Coach Kurt Hines. I'm trying not to fanboy out right now. I just told him that. We just talked a little bit. If you don't know who he is and you're on social media, you have a problem if you don't know who he is. He's very inspirational. I love it. Every day I try to see what he's going to say next. So, Coach, for anybody under a rock that doesn't know who you are, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, Coach. It's a blessing to connect. Yeah, without trying to sound humble, I try to think I'm not arrogant. I'm honestly just a guy who is blessed. I'm married to my best friend, 4 kids, 2 grandkids. I teach elementary school. I taught for 26 years. I coach high school football, going on my 23rd. And as I was just saying offline a little bit, I'm an expert in nothing, but passionate about many things. So I'm happy to be here with you.
No, thank you. I just told Coach off there, this is me taking my shot, and he said yes. And so this is probably the high of my career right here, this newbie podcast. And I forgot to say off air, breaking news for you in California, Pac-12 is coming back. They
Yes,
voted. They're coming back. They're going to play in November. Someone said the Big Ten and Pac-12 tried to play hide and seek and see who was going to follow, and nobody else did. So now they have to come back. So that's just breaking news for people. I used to watch Washington State all the time with Mike Leach.
love
Now I'm
them.
not going to anymore, but now I have to watch Mississippi State. So the first question I ask every coach, because I'm always curious, is how you got into coaching. And I've asked these coaches, and it's always been a different answer, which I love. Like me, I've wanted to do it since I was 16 years old. I said, I'm coaching. That's what I want to do. My coach was an inspiration for that. So I'm always curious, like, was it a coach? Was it a mentor? Was it from playing? Did you just get bored and say, I'm going to coach? Like, hey, how did that happen?
Yeah, great question. So I always knew I wanted to be a teacher since 7th grade. I was a not a problem child, but I got into a lot of problems. I got into a lot of trouble. And I had a 7th grade math teacher, and math was my least favorite subject. But I remember he would sit, my math teacher, on his desk for 5, 10 minutes before every class and just talk to us about life, nothing to do with, math or whatever. And it was then that I thought to myself, I want to do that. I want to make a difference in teach. So what happened was my senior year in college, one of my professors in education approached me and she said that the local middle school was looking for a coach for a special needs flag football team. Had never thought about coaching, played football from 2nd grade through college, loved everything about it. Had never thought about coaching, but then I had a chance to be on a field with a bunch of children with special needs, ranging from autism to Asperger's to Down syndrome, just children that have a joy for life and really, just are happy to be alive. And there was a young girl, I don't remember her name, but I remember tossing the football to her 5 or 6 times from about 3 yards away, underhand, and she dropped it every single time. And the 7th or 8th time that I tossed it to her and she caught it, I saw her eyes light up, and she just looked like she had just won the lottery. And that was the first time, Coach, that I remember thinking to myself, I want to do that. Like if I can marry, I don't know, I never thought about it, but if I can marry making a difference in someone's lives, and along with the sport I love everything about, I want to do that. So I reached out my 3rd year teaching. My wife and I got married young. We were 22, and spent my first 3 years teaching, just teaching and raising a young family. And then it was my 4th year teaching. I reached out to the local high school head coach. And I always tell people who want to get into coaching, I said, reach out to a coach and say, I'm willing to volunteer to do anything. And it just so happened that he had a head coaching position open for the freshmen. I was terribly underqualified, but I was a body with a pulse and a passion. So started coaching there for 7 years, loved everything about it. And I was blessed because he was a coach that knew the game well and knew people and loved people. So I learned from someone who really, in my opinion, after coaching for 23 years now, did things right.
Yeah, my girlfriend does early intervention and ABA therapy with kids like that, so she loves doing that. Mine was the same way. Like, a coach made a difference in my life. Sports made a difference, so I said, "This is what I want to do." I was 16 and I already knew. I was like, "This is what I was going to do." So it's always crazy how everybody has a different path to
Yeah.
how they did it. Um, so let's talk about your coaching, like where you've coached at, because you've sounds like you've been all over the place. So where you like where you're from? Did you coach there? Like, where did you coach there? And then we'll talk about how you moved all the way out to where you are now. Because I
Yeah.
thought moving 3 hours was a lot. Moving 3 hours north was a lot. What you did, I don't know if I could do that.
So born and raised in Rhode Island, but went to college in New Hampshire, played at Plymouth State, and coached at Coronado High School for my first 7 years as the head freshman coach. And at the end of every season, Mike Beliveau, who was the head coach, said, "Coach, come on up to varsity." And I respectfully always turned him down, and I had nothing but respect for him to this day. But I love doing my own little thing, having my own little group, and I had no desire to not only not be a head coach, I had no desire to be a varsity coach. I just loved where I was. Then I got a call one day from the head coach of the town I lived in. And he said, "Hey, we'd love to have you coach. We've coached against you enough. We'd love to have you coach with us." And my wife and I had 3 daughters and 1 son. Our son was going to be in high school in a few years. So the idea of possibly coaching him was exciting to me. I went to this second school I coached at and just didn't see eye to eye with the coach there. And that's all I'll say. After 2 weeks, I said to my wife, "I'm done. I'm going to honor my commitment, obviously, and finish the year." And I was going to go back to Sauhegan where I started, or my wife was working at a brand new high school, and they were looking for a head coach. And my wife, who's my best friend, said, "Hey, apply for the head coaching job here." And I remember laughing at her. I said, "Jill, I love you, but I've been a freshman coach for 7 years. I'm a varsity assistant for a month. I'm not qualified." And she kind of called me on my own stuff, if you will. And she said, "Listen, you're always talking about giving it a shot and giving your all and trying." She said, "You have nothing to lose." So I applied for the job, got the job. But before I'll talk about that very briefly, I remember in my second interview, the athletic director and the principal, it was a very affluent community in Bedford, New Hampshire, brand new high school. We didn't have any seniors yet. And I remember them asking, they said, "Coach, if you get the job, how long before you're in the playoffs?" And I don't know why, but without hesitation, I said 3 or 5 years. And they both laughed at me. And I remember thinking to myself, like, all right, I'll prove you wrong. So I got the job. First year, we set records in the state of New Hampshire. We're getting beat up more than any other school in the history of the game, probably. It was humbling, I'll tell you. I did so much wrong. Our playbook was this thick. We ran it all poorly, and it wasn't the players. It was me. I tried to do way too much. But it was my greatest year coaching to date. And I really mean that because when you lose week after week after week, and I'm not talking about, hey, those close games. Like, when you walk through after a game, win or lose, you shake the other team's hand, you say, "Good game." No one even, they're like, "Beautiful, great stadium." And we're that bad, they're not going to lie to us. But it really made me solidify, why do I want to be a head coach? Because with all respect to every assistant out there, I'm a firm believer you can be an assistant and pour into the young men or young women. You can love them. You can be one of the best knowledgeable coaches, if not be on the staff, being an assistant. But there's a lot less responsibility. So it really made me do some soul searching and ask why I want to be a head coach. And it really was to have the power to hire the men and women around me that love people and secondly love the game. Because I've coached, unfortunately, not unfortunately, I've learned a lot, but I've coached with enough people who love the game and use people. So I was there. First year we lost every game, got our teeth kicked in. Second year we won 2. Third year we won 5 and sneaked into the playoffs. So I said within 3 to 5 years. And then my last 4 years, we went to the state championship 3 out of the 4 years, each time in a higher division. And we had 144 young men in our program, and not I, by any stretch of the imagination, but we built a powerhouse. And I thought, this is it. This is our home. We had just done a fundraiser for a brand new weight room, and life was great. And then our oldest daughter called. You talked about the transition out here to California. she had come out to San Diego State, had gotten married, and she called one day to my wife and I and said, "I'm pregnant." And my heart just left. I was like, "Yes, I'm going to be a grandfather." And then it sank. I was like, "Oh, I'm moving." Because we knew we didn't want to be grandparents on the other side of the country. So huge leap of faith. I jokingly said we sold everything, but I teach, so we only had two things. We sold both things we had, but and we just drove across country. My wife didn't have a job yet. We hadn't sold our house yet, and I'm blessed. I love everything about teaching and coaching, but we don't have a savings where, like some families, you can afford 5, 6, 7 months of paying mortgage and rent. It was 3 days into our trip across country that our realtor, who we signed over power of attorney to, she called and said the house sold, and both my wife and I were in our truck and we started crying because we wouldn't have made it financially. But yeah, came out here, coached at a private Christian school for 2 years. It was a blessing to be there, and then I just felt the call to be a head coach again. So 3 years ago, took over at Coronado High School here in Coronado, California, and loving every minute of it.
Yeah, I bet the weather is a little bit nicer out there.
Yeah. Real quick about that, Coach. I used to think I hated winter. I absolutely love winter. I was just in the wrong part of the country. Winter's 72 and sunny. You kidding me? Go to the beach. It's beautiful.
I talked to some coaches from South Carolina, and I was like, I need to go down there. They're playing football, but there's no snow.
Yeah.
I'm up here by Chicago, where we start football in February. We're going to have snow.
Yeah.
Can we make it to practice? Who even knows how that's going to look?
And I'll tell you, I think if you love football for the right reasons, you're going to love the people you coach no matter where you are. I loved our young men, young women back in New Hampshire. I love our young men here in Coronado. But every so often I'll walk out to practice. And where our field is, Coach, Coronado Island, we have a naval base. We have that community. We have the people that live here, always. But in the middle of our field, we look downtown and we can see Petco Park. We can see downtown San Diego. It's magnificently beautiful. I walk out to practice sometimes, and our young men will be wearing long sleeves, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" They're like, "Coach, it's cold." I'm like, "It's 69, it's 70 degrees, And I told them back in New Hampshire, like you guys, you start football in 102-degree weather with 100% humidity, and if you're fortunate enough, you're shoveling the field to get ready for practice for playoffs. So it's not bad being out here.
Yeah, I have a funny story. I was at Eastern. Dino Babers showed up, and we had Jimmy G there and everything. He coached at Hawaii. He coached at Baylor, so he's been around warm weather. So Illinois spring ball one day, I'm setting up practice. Everybody's in it's like 65 or 60 degrees. Some of us are in long sleeves, some of us or whatever. He comes out in like a hoodie, parka, a hat on, bouncing around like this. And we're like, "What are you doing?" He goes, "It is cold. I'm from Texas and Hawaii. Like, this is ridiculous." And he loves his up-tempo offense. He had a stopwatch to see how fast they're going. He couldn't hardly hit the button because he had the gloves on. So that's my Dino Babers story with that. And I'm like, "Oh, it's 60. I'm in shorts and T-shirt or whatever." And then Chicago I was the only guy in shorts my first time coaching Chicago.
So I have to share this just because you mentioned the shorts, and you may have heard me before refer to pants as leg prisons. I've been a shorts guy my entire life. Growing up in Rhode Island, coaching in New Hampshire, I'm not a fan of pants. I'll wear them at funerals, weddings, and football banquets. That's it. Back in New Hampshire, not because I think I'm tough. Well, I do, but I'm not that tough. I always wore shorts. Pouring rain, snow, sleet, you name it. Moved out to California. The first game I coached in out here as an assistant at Christian High School, we were playing Brawley, which is out in the desert. And the coaching staff said, "No, we wear pants." So obviously I'm not the head coach, so you follow suit and you stop pouting. It took me a while, but I wore pants. First game, Coach, kid you not, 114 degrees at 7 p.m. kickoff. And I'm looking up, going, sweating from every pore, going, "All right, God, you got a sense of humor." So the second thing, after accepting the job here at Coronado, I asked the AD, once I had the job, I said, "Hey, is there a dress code for coaches?" And she said, "Coach, our lacrosse coach goes barefoot." I said, "Well, I promise you I'll never do that. But as a coaching staff, can we wear khaki shorts or whatever?" And she said, "You can wear whatever you want." So I'll let my coaches wear pants if they want, but I'm a shorts guy.
You took one of the questions out. I typed down here for fun. I remember that whole Twitter feed. And I'm like, I'm liking this because I came up here to Chicago and there's times they're in pants and a hoodie, and I'm in shorts and something like this.
Yep.
Because I'm from Central Illinois, which is, you wouldn't think it's so much different than Chicago, but it is. And so I'm in shorts a couple times, but we're winning. We're like 6-0. I'm like, I have to keep wearing shorts. Well, one day it was 45 degrees, 50 degrees. I'm wearing shorts. I'm like, I'm the biggest idiot on the face of the earth right now. So I had to wear pants the next game, and I hated every moment of it. I was like, I made the biggest mistake.
The question is, the game you wore pants, did you win or lose?
We won, but the first half was ugly. I started to think, I was like, we're going to lose. It's going to be because I wore pants. I have to do the same thing over. Like if I have the same hat, the same shoes, or the pant or whatever, I'm like, I have to wear the same type of thing. We played rough the first half. I'm like, I'm going to take the blame. It's me.
That's when you send one of the managers over to the trainer and ask for a pair of scissors to cut your pants into shorts.
Oh, I considered it because it was, I was like, games I was hot, and I'm like, oh, we're going to lose. The head coach is going to fire me. It's going to be rough. No, I'm glad you brought that up because I had it typed up. So good thing we got that done. So you said you taught elementary school. Is that what you always taught? And then did you always know you just wanted to do that, to teach elementary?
Yeah, it's funny, as you mentioned, how we all have our different paths. My high school football coach owned a daycare center, and it happened to be 100, 200 yards away from my house. So I started working there in the summers, and there was a woman, and it's a good thing I don't remember her name. If I did, I wouldn't say it anyways. But I remember one of the kids in summer was probably being a little punk, doing something he shouldn't, probably about like third or fourth grade age. And all the kids are going outside for a recess break period, if you will. And she scolded him and said, "You need to stay in here and read." And I remember thinking to myself, like, whoa, like, and I was in high school then, thinking to myself, like, wait a minute, that's a punishment? Like, why are we sending that message? Like, you've been bad, now you get to go read. So, yeah, I always want to teach. I've always taught kindergarten through fourth grade. I teach regular classroom, and I'm not, a lot of people think, oh, you're a PE teacher. I was a teacher first. I currently teaching fourth grade, and I love it. A lot of people, when they find out I teach, say, oh, your kids must be so afraid of you. I take great pride in the fact I say not once in 26 years have I raised my voice in the classroom. And it's funny, people say, how do you transition from teaching to coaching? You mentioned, keep it simple, stupid, or keep it stupid, simple.
Uh-huh.
I think I have great success, not compared to anyone else, but for me personally, because I teach the same way I coach. When my students and my players know that I love them, not because they're good academically or good athletically, but just love them for who they are and try to meet them where they are and take them to where I believe they can be. I think that changes students. I think it changes players. I think it changes people because they realize that you are not trying to have them fit into some mold, but you're just loving them for who they are and helping them to get somewhere greater, hopefully.
Yeah. Because I went through a rough patch. I'm going to cheat off of Coach Schiffman's podcast because you were on there and I listened to it. I remember listening. You guys talked about be the coach you are, like don't try to be somebody else. Yeah. And I remember when I was OC, I'm not going to tell too much about it. I felt like I had to be the bad cop. Like people were being the good cop and I had to be the bad cop. Like I's dotted, T's crossed, kids don't talk back. Like I had to be that, the head coach. And so I was forcing that. Yep. And I'd go home and I would be mad. I'm like, why am I mad? I'm sitting here mad. And I go to practice the next day and I'm mad again. I'm losing my hair. Like, I don't know what's going on.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with losing hair.
That's why I'm wearing the hat. No, I have short hair all the time, but I got the new gear. I'm in a new school, new gear. I wore it to school. So it just sounds, I appreciate that. This sounds like this is who you are. Like what you just described is how you are. You don't be anybody else. And I know I was somebody else. And I was going to quit coaching. It got so bad. I said, I'm going to quit coaching. I don't like how I am. I went to a new school. The guy took me under his wing and he said, let me show you how to get back to who you are. Be yourself. So now I'm back to myself. I'm not proud of it. Like when I get mad, yeah, there was cursing and I was like, I don't like it. I don't, it happens. We're coaches. It kind of happens. Now at this new school, even I've adapted and I just kind of go, you say the right things to get their attention. And I'm like, this works so much better than losing my mind. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And that's why I like your inspirational stuff on Twitter. Because it's like a reminder. Like, I don't have to be this way. Yeah. That's why I don't even know you, and I was looking up to you. I was like, this is the guy. Like,
well, that truly means a lot. It's funny. One of the greatest compliments, and I want to make a point to say to this young man, who's going to be a senior this coming season. But last year, that some news station was out here doing a story or whatever, and they followed some of my social media stuff, and then they interviewed some players, and I didn't see this until a few months afterwards. But one of our players said something to the effect of, "Yeah, they said, how is it, knowing Coach Hines is, all over Twitter and popular on Twitter." And for a split second, I was like, because that could be taken either way. Parents and players and teachers could be like, oh, they're more concerned about that or whatever. And it was something I'll never forget, and it meant the world to me. So I will thank him for this. But he said something to the effect of, yeah, it's great that the other people in the country can see that, but we get to see that every day. And it meant and means so much to me because, and you know this as well as I do, Coach, but when you are someone you're not, people will see through it, and I think sooner or later they will, or as you mentioned, it'll eat at you. It'll eat at your core, and you won't last in your marriage, in your job, in coaching, whatever it is. You have to be true to yourself.
Yeah, I was embarrassed to tell people that, even tell you that, but I was like, if you learn from it, then that's the positive. Now, if you don't learn from it, then that's the embarrassing part. Like, you're doing the same thing over and over. And so, because like I said, it got so bad I wasn't going to coach. We moved up here, and I was like, I'm done. Like, I'm never going to do it again. But then I drove by practices. I started to do this, and I'm like, well, I got to. His name is Coach Walters. He took me under his wing. He's like, you sound like an old school coach, and that's not the way it has to be. Let me show you how you adapt. Let's get back to what you do. And just having that confidence, I started to get back to what I was doing.
I love it.
Pepping my step. I wasn't. There's yelling, but I think it's not what I was doing. Like, I'm yelling at you. That's what I was doing. But now I'm coaching. Now I'm doing this and getting back. Because that last year and a half I was doing that was awful. I had no fun. Going to practice, leaving practice, I had no fun. So get off topic. That's what I do. It's okay.
No, I do want to ask you two things. Is it Coach Walter or Walters?
Coach Walters. He's the head coach at Lombard East here in Lombard, Illinois.
So my two questions for that, I guess third, because I just asked what his name was again. Is he on Twitter?
He is. He's not big on it, but he's on there.
I'll have to follow him because I love that. My other question is, did you get a chance to thank him or and you know this once again without sounding preachy, but him pouring into you is going to change other young men's lives through you. Who knows how far or how long? That's a pretty cool. That gets me excited.
I did because after the season, I told him like you got me back into coaching. Blah blah blah. Like, he was playing music at practice with the kids. He goes, I never would have done that years ago. You got to, times have changed. We don't have to be this way. And when he yelled at them, they got their attention because he turned to be easygoing. And when he got after, they're like, oh, he's. And I'm going to brag about him just for a quick minute. When I got there in 2018. We went 9-0. They'd never gone 9-0 before. They made the playoffs for the first time since 1999. Then we went 10-0. We won the first round playoff game. They'd never gone 10-0. We had 2 home playoff games. We averaged 40-some points a game, only gave up 6 or 7 a game. He had built that up for 7 years. I showed up. He had not gone to the playoffs. It had been built up. And it was that culture building. He was trying to build the culture up. And, he's very simple like me. We're both – he's not stupid, but simple. And so it kind of was like, that's what I want to be. Got back into it. And then the next school I went to is kind of the same. He's building up a program. We're both the same age. We're both going to turn 30. The head coach I just coached for. It was the same thing. Like he has more energy. He's run all over the field, and everything else, but he's the same. It was building them up, building the program. So I've been fortunate the last 2 years to I think it's almost like I was supposed to go do that. Like, they're supposed to get me back to coaching, to what I want to do. So been very fortunate for those 2 guys. Now I'm with another coach. It's his first year. He's a D coordinator last year. He got hired. He picked the wrong time to get hired during COVID, but I keep telling him that all the time.
It can only go up from here.
Well, that's why I told him, I keep saying, aren't you glad you took this job? And he says things I won't say, but he
I'm sure.
See, I get off topic, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Let's see where my place is here. So we talked about COVID and how it changed everything before I start recording. So how did COVID affect California? I assume it's like Illinois, but how did it change just everything?
Yeah, everything got shut down. We didn't have spring ball. I know you mentioned there's not really a spring ball in Illinois, but we didn't have spring ball. I've always, in the 23 years I've coached now, done the strength and conditioning also. I know a lot. Once again, not an expert in anything. Learned a lot from a lot of great coaches. Boyd Epley, who's Nebraska for 36 years, and just have a passion for that. And I love doing the strength and conditioning because, when you're in practice, you have a practice script. You're down to the minute, and it's you can connect with the players, but it's harder. During the off season, I love working side by side with them, so you can really build those relationships and that culture. We didn't have that. I think, like most states, that was shut down completely. So you were hoping guys were working out their own. As a coaching staff, one of the many mistakes I made years ago as a first-time head coach is I tried to do way too much, and I learned over the years to still do all we can, but to empower your assistants. Not only does it kind of lighten your load a little bit, but it empowers them and gives them a purpose. Make sure that they understand they are a valued member of that staff, and without them, you're not as strong. So I made a point to reach out to each and every one of our players through phone call or text or private message, whatever it was. But then I realized that first week and a half that I reached out to everyone, I was trying to be the guy, trying to be the one that, I thought, wait a minute, it's not about me. So we had a coaches meeting, a Zoom meeting, and I said, hey, let's divide up the staff. I have an amazing staff, and my assistant head coach, Coach Davis, I can't speak enough about that guy. I'm just passionate about football, but does so much without even being asked. He's a blessing. He divided up the program, the young men and we don't have the young women this year, but did last year. He divided up the young men, and we assigned the coaches and said, reach out to them. And I asked him, I said, the first conversation, please don't talk about football. Don't talk about working out. Just ask them how they are doing. Because you and I know the same, for some of us, this whole COVID thing is a terrible inconvenience, and we're frustrated and angry and whatever. For some people, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of anxiety, and then there's more fighting in the house between mom and dad or kids, and jobs being lost. So we're doing well. We just got approval about 3 weeks ago to work back with our young men. That's different for every school district. We're not allowed in our weight room. We're outside, but we can use footballs now. We're still doing the social distancing. But the kids are loving it. They're showing up in great numbers. So we're set to kick off our season if all goes well. As you mentioned, the Pac-12, that's a good sign for us, and hopefully the governing bodies will see that and realize that's a good thing. But we're set to kick off our season on December 12th. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, guys, we were talking off here. Like, their December is different than our December. We're starting in February. They're still going to have beaches and sunshine and all that. We're going to have ice and sleet and share the indoor facility with somebody. We have an indoor track, but we have to share with other people. Like, the nice way to put it's a dumpster fire. That's the way I'm going to put it. We're as a new coaching staff, new head coach, we're trying to keep our opinions to ourselves. But I also feel like we have to fight for the kids in Illinois. There's rallies to try to get it back. But I'm like, I think we have to fight for the kids. But I told my offensive lineman, I said, we control what we can control. We're fighting for you. Be safe when you're fighting for it. If we play in the spring, we play in the spring. If not, or if we play in the fall, we play in the fall. If we don't, we have the spring. Yep. At least we have the opportunity to play. I don't care. It could be 5 games. I don't care. It's the opportunity to do it. But like you said, the Pac-12 coming back is a good sign. Now, when the Big Ten came back, we thought it was going to be great. Well, so we're going to have Northwestern and Illinois playing while we're watching. Like, it's crazy that these are the times.
It's funny too, Coach. I'm a firm believer. I love teaching, but my students have to be in class, and I teach at a private school. But in the United States, you have to have some sort of formal education, whether it's private school, public, or homeschool. Young men and young women don't have to play sports. Obviously, mom and dad sometimes make them play sports. I have a biased opinion. I think sometimes, if young men are told to play a sport, they can choose easier sports than football. So I believe that the great majority of those we're blessed to coach choose to be here. And sometimes we as a coach can say the exact same thing a teacher, a mom, or a dad have said for years. But because Coach Steve's saying it or Coach Hines is saying it, it's gospel. They take it more seriously. So there's a lot of power in that, but I also realize that I have to be careful because I don't want to share my political views with my players. I don't want to Because you could have a young man that just thinks the world of you, and at some point is going to come to you when they're at their lowest and really need you. And if I share, hey, I love this candidate over that candidate, um, that may really deter them from going to the one person they trust and look up to. Now, if a young man asks me my opinions, I'm always going to be open and share it. But I really try to just be there and empower them without preaching to them. You froze there for a second.
Yeah, I was saying, I think my internet crapped out on us. Still got you?
Yep, I'm still here.
Guys, you listen out there, I'm a newbie, so this is fine. I'm not panicking or nothing. This is
right.
He's not going to judge me, I hope, so we're fine.
No judgment here, none at all.
Because that was my next thing. Like, how important is sports during this? Because some people, well, first thing I'll say is it's hard for us to say anything because it turns political. We don't want it to, but it's going to turn that way. And so that's why we have to be careful because somehow, some way, anybody's going to turn political, which I don't like, but it's snuck its way in. People here in Illinois have posted, like, I can't believe parents want their kids to play sports during this. I can't believe this, this, and this. And I keep my mouth shut. And on my podcast, I did an episode by myself. I finally had enough. I said, why sports matter. And I try to keep it not political. I did the overscale, though. I did economy. I did this. I did that. Yeah. But then I did high school, and I said how important sports are for high school. And I said, if we don't play, we don't play because it's COVID. But I said, we have to fight for it. We have to fight for it the best we can. So I was asking, like, how important is sports to some of these kids? Like, I just coach inner city kids, kind of, that's what they need. We had the team.
For me, one of my biggest pet peeves, and boo-hoo for me, I have to deal with it, is when I teach elementary school. The majority of the people I teach with are women. They're great women. I love them. All too often, I'll be leaving on a Friday for a game, and they say, good luck, have fun. And if we lose, they're like, oh, that's great. And they think it's just like a hobby. And when I hear someone say it, it's my least favorite phrase is it's just a game. Yes, it's a game. Yes, it should be fun. But I have spoken at a young man's funeral who I coached who took his life. I have coached against my own son his junior and senior year for homecoming. I have had young men come out of the closet, talk about eating disorders, get young women pregnant, go through divorces, everything under the sun that we all deal with in every aspect of life, every one of us. It's paramount to answer your question, in my opinion. I think football is a matter of sports are a matter of life and death. I truly believe that. There are so many people who struggle with depression or anxiety or abuse or neglect, and that's their safe place. That's their refuge. That's their life. And, for years, I've had certain coaches say to me, now I've never coached in the inner city. I think I'd really enjoy doing that tonight. And I realize there are whole different challenges that I haven't experienced yet. But I think sometimes people look at places like Bedford, New Hampshire, where I was a head coach, or Coronado, California, and think, those pretty boys, they have it all. And, the longer I coach, the more I realize you can come from a multi-million-dollar mansion and have more cars than drivers and all those different things that the outward world sees as the ideal life. There's still drug abuse. There's still neglect. There's still heartache. There's still depression. There's still all those things we all deal with. It just looks different from the outside. So and I will say this, I won't mention the coach's name, but there's a coach in Florida. It's a big enough state, so I'm not giving it away. My wife and I went down there this summer to visit my parents. And he owned some restaurants and wanted us to come over and to meet us. And it was a great blessing to meet him and talk to him. He said that 70% of the young men in his program come from single or no parent homes. Mind-blowing to me, mind-blowing. To think about that, their only meal comes from when they go to school. The only time they have a young or a man that they can look up to or a woman is their coach or teacher. It's being in school and playing sports is life-changing, and I could speak for hours on it, but I won't. So that's my short answer.
Yeah, I did my little podcast show. I did it twice because the first one went on for like an hour and a half, and I was like, nope, I have to change it. No, the school I just coached at, it's not an inner city, but they have some kids that come from single-parent homes, or they live with their grandparents, live with their brother, and I never coached kids like that. And then it hit me like week 2. We have our team meals, and we give kids a place to go home. That's their meal. That's what they need. Before a game, we have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Coach, can I take an extra sandwich? Yeah, go ahead. And it started hitting me like this is their meal. This is what, and some took it home to their mom. Maybe they took it home for them. And the people that I saw post sports don't matter. They're from where I grew up, where you didn't really see that. We're in the country where you don't see that.
Right.
So I'm like, if they saw that, I think they change a little bit.
And I completely agree. And I think all of us are ignorant in some things, and usually it's things we choose to be ignorant in. My wife knows more about my truck than I ever will. I don't care. I love my truck, but I don't care about knowing about this or that. She loves that stuff. I think for people to say, oh, because you see it, you say, oh, when we say, hey, we need football, we want football, and people will sometimes attack you, not even knowing us or knowing our backgrounds or our players, and say you don't care about people's health and safety. No, just the opposite. I see so much of the value of the mental health, the mental well-being. They see as a Neanderthal dumb jock coach answer is what I see as a lifeline to a young man or young woman's existence and what they need.
Right. Yeah. I said the same things. I completely agree. We're trying to get them healthy when they're playing sports. They're healthy when they're doing that, and they talk about our immune system, and then mental health is huge. Like, there's a coach on Twitter, you may have seen him, Coach Josh Joseph. He coaches in Illinois. He's been big in Illinois. I got to talk to him on here. He's become like a vocal leader for this, and he said he had the highest percentage attendance he's ever had for football.
Yep.
He's never had that before. Some places had like 150 kids show up, and they've never played football. They wanted to get out of the house. And I never thought I'd say this. Kids don't want to play video games anymore. They want to go out there and do that.
Right. They need that social interaction. They need just that human contact.
Yeah, we could go on bring it on again. We'll go for another hour on that. But so I wouldn't do my job. Coaches love X's and O's. And I never see anything from you from X's and O's. I think you're a culture guy, and that's the most important thing. So I just have to ask from the coach's side of me, like, so what's your offense and defensive philosophy stuff and all of that?
It truly is. It's funny. There's some coach, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but he does someone calling it the Dungeons and Dragons of football, where he has one offensive coach, one defensive, and he asked me to come on, and I felt horrible declining. I appreciate it. I'm a firm believer, first of all, as far as X's and O's, that any offense can win and any defense can win. I truly believe that. The coach, we've got to know what we're talking about as a head coach. Our assistants have got to buy in, and the players have to buy in. I have beaten teams and lost to teams that run the spread, that run the straight T. Forget about the wing T. There was a school in New Hampshire, Exeter, Coach Bill Ball, who was a legend in New Hampshire. His whole philosophy was no splits, no blitz. He ran double tight, 3 backs all the time, would pass on average 1 to 3 times a game. And my final year as head coach there, we beat them twice, once in the regular season, once in the postseason. We beat them on the scoreboard marginally, but they beat us up. They would just ground and pound. What we do here at Coronado, we run the spread. We run the triple option. I love football is a numbers game. What I teach our quarterbacks is if we just hand the ball off like that, it's 11 on defense against 10 on offense. So the longer we can ride out that fake, our meat and potatoes is our inside zone. If we run that well enough, I feel like we can do a lot of damage. I've had coaches on my own staff that I had to kind of set straight right away. They say, "Oh, I'm not a fan of the spread. I like smash mouth football." I'm like, "Oh, that's blasphemous." Like you can be spread and run smash mouth football. Defensively, I'm a big fan of the 4-4. However, we don't have that student body here, and what I mean by that is, especially with the naval base, a lot of the kids we get are smaller, rugged. Not big, 220 rugged, but smaller, 170, 160. We get some tall, lanky kids as well. We don't have a ton of size. We get a few young men this year on our line that are big and thick, which is great. Defensively, we run a 3-5, and the reason for that is we can easily fit and find a lot of outside linebacker corner type players. It's hard for us to find 3 solid, big defensive linemen, let alone 4 or 5. Certain packages we'll go into. I mentioned one of the schools I coached at, where I think the head coach, with the best of intentions, would take the best players out of the game, not physically, but or not literally, but mentally, because he switched things up way too often. And I believe in this philosophy of, it doesn't matter how much we know as coaches if we can't teach that to our players and get them to play fast. And I think sometimes playing fast is as simple as getting them to enjoy the game, have confidence, and not be afraid to make mistakes. Because I think when you talked about some of the coaching changes you went through personally, if our players are afraid to make mistakes, they're going to play slow. They're going to play hesitant. And when you embrace the fact that, hey, it's okay to make mistakes. And I want to make mistakes Monday through Thursday as much as we can in practice and not tear them apart for it. Because the more mistakes we make Monday through Thursday, the better we'll play on Friday or Saturday. But yeah, we run the spread. Another pet peeve of mine, coaches, when they say, I like to pass more, I like to run more, I like to be 50-50. Offensively, and I'm our offensive coordinator, I like to do what the defense gives us. If we have to pass 75% of the game to win the game, we're going to pass 75% of the game. If we have to run the ball, we'll do that. I also, I'm a big believer in the philosophy of pass short to gain long. The quicker our quarterbacks can get rid of the ball, the less chance our linemen get caught holding. I teach our linemen all the time. Do we want you holding? They go, no. Like, yes, hold every play. Just never get caught. We'll never teach or allow dirty play. But if I can get my hands inside your breastplate and my thumbs are in and we're chest to chest, they're not seeing that hole. We're going to get in there tight. So, yeah, and the reason that, and I get that, I think you joke around, Coach. I'm sure you're a lot smarter coach than you give yourself credit for. I know my strengths as a coach. I know what I bring to the table. And I'm not saying this to try to sound humble. There are probably 10,000 coaches out there in the United States at the high school level, easily, that know X's and O's better than I do. And I feel like I know the game well. But for me, it's you have to know the game. You have to know the X's and O's. But it's about knowing the players and finding out what makes them tick, in my opinion, and then going from there.
Yeah, because when I volunteered first, because you said volunteer, we have to volunteer. I thought X's and O's was what the coach, that's how they won. Then as you get into it, you're like, you could tell them to go run through the brick wall. If they do it, then it's like they believe in you, so you could do whatever you want. Because it's funny on Twitter, you see people hate each other on the spread and the wing tee, and I stir the pot a little bit sometimes just to poke fun.
Yep.
But some of the coaches on my podcast or ones I've been on, they're all wing tee guys, and I'm the spread guy, so they give me a lot of crap. Because I love Mike Leach. I love Gus's offense and stuff. I love to incorporate it. That's what we're going to do. We're going to have an H-back and a tight end run. We're going to have those air raid concepts behind it, and that's fine.
Yeah, and I'll tell you about that. You talk about the spread, and I laugh at myself about this. I remember when I was in high school and college. I played center and defensive end in high school. I played tight end in college. We would be in coaches, or not coaches, but chalk talk, team meetings, and they talk about the H here, the X here, the Y here, the Z here. And I remember sitting there going, why? Why is the H there now? Why is the X there? And I never had the courage to raise my hand. Thought I was the only one. Come to find out when I started coaching, more and more kids. I remember I was at one school talking to a defensive back. I was coaching defensive backs. And just talking about cover two. And he's like, Coach, can I ask you a question? And he looked like he was just about to pour his heart out to me. I'm like, yeah. He's like, what's cover two? He was a senior, stud player. He had no idea what cover two was. He was just winging it. And that was one of the paradigm moment shifts I had where I was like, you don't have to be a genius in football. If you got to know the basics. So what I did I didn't create anything or reinvent the wheel. But when I first became a head coach, we took our spread and I got rid of the X, the Y, the Z, the H. We have our wide receiver on the left is our L. Our wide receiver on the right is our R. We go tight end, that's rock, so that's tight end right. Tight end left is load. And our slots are A and C, and our back is B. So we go A, B, C. So our inside zone we call bar 51, and bar simply means back at right. Our ball is back at left. For us, trips is always to the right. Trio is always to the left. And because I wasn't that smart of a player, and I'm not that smart of a coach, I really try to take the thinking out of it. And I'm not going to say dumb it down because I have a lot of players that are smart, cerebral players. But really, I think the simpler we can make it for them and for our coaches, the more enjoyable it is. Just let them play football. Get them in a position to succeed, and just take the chains off. Let them go out there and have fun. And there are so many coaches that can outcoach me. But as far as out loving me and loving your plays and pouring into them, I'll go to bat with anyone because I feel, and not that I'm better than anyone, but I know what my strengths are, and I know the game, but I feel like I know people really well also.
Yeah, when I was OC, our playbook was this thick, and I was OC. We had to snap the ball every 12 seconds, and I hated every moment of it because
Yep.
there was too many plays. Then, like I said, when I went to I'm going to talk about the Lombard East game. We had 2 formations, 2x2 and 3x1.
Love it.
And then we could just tighten them down if we wanted, and we went 9-0.
You know what's funny? Yeah, it's funny too, Coach. So this is our offensive playbook right here. That's it. That's it.
I like it.
What I learned, because as a head coach, my first few years, every time I had an assistant say, "Hey, what about this? What about that play?" I felt like I had to say yes to everything. So our playbook kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and our success rate became smaller and smaller and smaller. And I was losing every game our first year. And now what I've really challenged myself with is when I come up with a new play, which is fairly often, or when an assistant coach suggests a new play and I sit down with them and I always listen to them, I have to convince myself or have them convince me, what are we going to take out of the playbook? It's got to be something better than what we have. And then that happens. That happens from time to time, and I love that. But it's for me, it's the whole less is more. The same thing applies. I could talk about this forever, and I'm not an expert once again. But the weight room is, I don't want my guys doing 14 variations of the squat. I want them to do bodyweight squats first and foremost, proper form. Kettlebell squats, zombie squats. I'm not sure if you're familiar with those. I just learned about them 3 years ago. But it's if the bar is here, you put your shoulder under it. So the bar is here, it's choking you. Because if I round my back, the bar is falling off away from your face. And then we go into front squats and then back squats. So I think less is more. I think, the more we can perfect a play, it's, Bruce Lee, the famous Bruce Lee quote, if I can not misquote him, I fear not the man that practiced 10,000 kicks, but the man that practiced one kick 10,000 times. I think there's a lot of power and a lot of transition and carryover in the world of football with that.
Yeah, because I'm the run game coordinator now, so we're putting in stuff. I'm going to keep it stupid simple, and we're installing it already. And I'm so simple. We're going to walk through it till we get it right. We're power. Power's the one.
Yes.
That's the offense coordinator wants power. I said, you got it, and we're going to make it so simple. And I only take 2 or 3 run plays because I practice every day, every defense. I don't care what. On film, we can see film. That, and then I go extra. I'm like, well, what if they do this? What if they do that? Because when I was OC, that team I run a 4-4. When we go play them, they're in a 3-5 now, and my players are like, what just happened?
Yep. Well, and I have to ask you the same question for myself. How confident would you be? I would have zero confidence, and I feel like I'm a very confident person. But to step in the ring with Mike Tyson, even at 53 years old, if you said, hey, he could only use 2 punches on you. Listen, those 2 punches, whatever he chooses, are going to do damage. Because he's done those 2 punches, whatever they are, for that long. So, less is more.
The only way I'm getting that ring with him is to give him his towel. That's the only time.
Yeah, I'll give him some water and a yes, sir. Exactly.
Yeah, you got it. No. He knocked me out, and I'd never wake up. No. So I'm keeping you a very long time. I'm just going to do a couple more.
I enjoy it.
So how you become like a keynote speaker? Like, you've become this big speaker. How did that come about? Did you plan on that happening? Did it just happen? And how do you come up with the messages? Those are my 2 things. Like, how did you become the speaker? How do you come up? I saw the one, don't misquote, I'm going to try to misquote you. It was a student of yours, and you had the dime and the nickel.
Yes.
That one I loved. And I'm like, how does he come up with this? How did he become a speaker? And
so let me try to get all 3 there. The dime and the nickel I did not come up with. And I'm not plagiarizing. I read that years ago. Now, they didn't tie it into the size of our bank account or house or how big we are physically. But I remember talking about just reading something, I think it was in college, about the worth of something, the size. So I didn't come up with that. A lot of the stuff, it's just coming through life. I think all of us do. You drive by certain things and just kind of pick up things. So it just comes, the thoughts just come to me, and that's a scary thought because my wife jokes around a lot. I'll say things when I'm not recording things that she's like, "Really, you just said that?" And I'm like, "Listen, the stuff I say is stuff I've edited that stuff like that. That's the stuff I allow myself to say." The speaking stuff, it's funny. It's all the great majority of it is come through Twitter, and I fought Twitter for the longest time. I paint murals also. I love painting, so when Instagram and Facebook came out, it was natural. You could show pictures and stuff or whatever before Twitter allowed you to do that. And my wife was like, get on Twitter, because she would come, and still does, come to every game. And when she would go to the away game, she was home and watching the news and the scores before I was leaving the visitor locker room. So I was constantly calling her, texting her. So I reluctantly got on Twitter. And then I remember what it was years ago, probably about 6, 7 years ago. Someone had cut and paste or whatever one of my tweets, and I wasn't that butthurt about it, but they didn't retweet or give credit. So I'm like, that son of a gun just stole what I said, and it's not a big deal. It wasn't, but that's when I started doing videos. I'm like, you can't steal a video, So it just started to resonate with people. The funny thing about the speaking was, I've been so blessed. Two things I'll share quickly. You know Inky Johnson?
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
He's I think he was a Tennessee player that got paralyzed, lost the use of like his left arm or right arm. I don't remember. But that guy is ridiculously gifted in sharing messages and stuff. And he's one of the first ones that comes to mind for me. So when I first started getting asked to speak at coaching clinics or companies or whatever, and I don't want to get too preachy with my faith. My faith, you see some of the stuff. It means everything to me. It was really Satan working on me, saying, Hines, who are you? You don't have that story. You didn't play at a Division I school. You aren't in the NFL. Who are you? And it was kind of a God moment where I read something once that said, our ego is every time we edge God out. Another thing I did not come up with. But it really slapped me upside the head. I thought, listen, if God put something on your heart, just like you, Coach, to do this podcast, you may not be a Joe Rogan or someone that has millions of followers or whatever, whoever we want to think of, but you're changing lives by putting it out there, and I feel blessed and honored to connect with you. So I let go of my ego a little bit. I said, I'm going to stop edging God out, and if someone asks me to speak, there's a reason for it. There's something I'm sharing in a way they want me to share. The funny thing is, I've been able to speak at like Fidelity Investments, and just before COVID hit, I got a private message from a gentleman on Twitter that said, hey, we want to, our company wants to fly you out to the Bahamas and have you speak for us. It was ADT Security. And it seemed like one of those emails you get from someone from Nigeria. It's, hey, we want to put money into your bank account. Just give us your Social Security. So I almost didn't respond to it. Long story short, I did. I said, hey, please email me at my business account. And they did. And it was legit. So I remember having a conference call with he and a coworker of his. And I said, just curious, why? Like, why me? And they said, Coach, we love your message. And most of our higher management are former athletes, and the ones that are leaders in their own right. And that's what I've come to realize, that my message is not a lot different than other people's. It's not any better. It's from the heart. And I think that resonates with certain people. And you know this as well as I do, 7.7 billion people or whatever the number is on the planet nowadays. There's enough negativity and hatred and hurt and pain and just bile out there. And I don't think the world will ever be overpopulated with people that want to share positivity and good messages. So, when people ask me to speak, I just got asked to speak in Missouri, I think, and I was like, yeah, excited to do it. And then my manager worked out the whole fee and all that stuff that I don't want to do. And then just so happened that our football season got pushed back, and I can't do it now because we have a game that Friday. And my manager was like, well, can't you miss this one game? I'm like, no, not for any amount of money. No, I cannot. But so yeah, it was not planned. It still amazes me every time that someone reaches out and asks me. I'm humbled by it.
Yeah, as I said, I shot my shot. This is me shooting my shot. I was
Hopefully,
like, I got it.
you're not disappointed.
No, that's why I apologize for keeping it on for so long. I'm like, oh, this is taking forever. I don't mind going to school tomorrow tired after this.
And tomorrow's a Friday, so that's a great thing.
It's a great day.
You know what's funny too? We typically right now I'd be just wrapping up our here in California our pasta dinner after Thursday practice, and I don't sleep on Thursdays. It's not even funny. It's a sickness. I watch, and we all watch a ton of films. I'm not being one of those coaches like I watch so much film. But Thursday nights, my wife and I, we say prayer every morning and every night. And Thursday nights around 10 or 11, we'll say prayer, and she'll go to bed. And I try, and usually around 11 o'clock, I'm like, I'm not sleeping, so I'm up until 3 or 4. The alarm goes off at 5:30, and I'm up. But so no, this is good for me. I'm used to not going home early on Thursdays.
Yeah, I don't sleep well on Thursdays, and I don't sleep well on Fridays. Fridays, the whole game replays back in my head.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because like during the game, you know what's going on, but it's still kind of a blur. And then after a while, it starts to come back, and you're like, "Oh, I remember this. I remember this."
It's a sick.
That's why I loved Pac-12 after dark because here in Illinois, like right now it's 9:09, so I'd get home at like 10 o'clock or 11, and Washington State's on or something. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I could watch it. Like I could sit here and I just watch it until 1 in the morning. It's the same. So why the Dallas Cowboys? I'm going to ask. Now, my dad's a Dallas Cowboy fan. I'm a Bears fan. I'm a Bears fan, so I watch the Cowboys. I have a Cowboys shirt in my closet. Don't worry, it's in there. I wear it. I get a lot of flack for it. But so I just asked why the Dallas Cowboys. I want them to win this year. I was like, they have something. It's time for them to win. Like,
yeah, I grew up in Rhode Island, and all my family and friends are Patriots fans through and through. Serious answer, I think growing up, that's when they were in their heyday. A lot of kids love teams when they're winning. When I started to understand the game more, my father was, molding me and teaching me, and not really about the game, but just about life and character. Tom Landry is a class act. Jerry Jones, I'm not a huge fan of. I think business-wise, he's a genius or close to it. I wish he would step back a little bit, but it's easy for me as someone not involved in the organization to try to tell someone. I mean, but that's like parents in the stands telling us how to coach, So I even bother myself when I say that. I love the Cowboys. I have one tattoo, and it's Cowboys tattoo. We had a chocolate lab named Dallas for 14 years, greatest dog ever, and the only reason we had a chocolate lab named Dallas was because my wife didn't want me to name our daughter Dallas, which in hindsight, she said it sounds like a dancer's name, and I'll say dancer. She used a different word. So Dallas and Star got knocked off the table, and her name's Abby now. But yeah, our son Brock was named after Brock Marion, who played for the Cowboys for years. And I've always been a diehard Cowboys fan and always will be. I refuse to get a matching tattoo as Zeke Elliott though. I'm not going to get on my belly. I'm not that good a shape.
No, I would never. I'm a big guy. I was the chubby kid, and then freshman 15 hit in college, and it was even worse. So I'm slimmer now, but quarantine weight, I lost it. So it's
I joke about the freshman 15 in college. COVID-19 is what hit me. The COVID-19.
COVID made me start running. I hate running with a passion. I do the elliptical or I walk on the treadmill. When COVID happened, I tried to do home workouts, which I hated. And I was like, I have to pick up jogging. So the first jog was like 10 minutes and I was done. I was like, I make the athletes run for this. I'm like, oh. So then I started jogging and it turned into I could jog like a mile without stopping eventually.
Yep.
Now, when I say jog, that's your 16-minute mile. Like, we're not going to get crazy.
That's right.
So COVID-19, I started pulling the weight, so they got me running. No, I'll say this. Cowboys fans are like LeBron James fans. I always used to say it, but just to poke fun. But I said, I bet you, though, you're watching the Cowboys on the TV. I bet you they're on there. I said, people watch Notre Dame. They hate Notre Dame and the Cowboys, but it's on your TV. You hate the Patriots. It's on your TV.
Exactly.
I wore a Dallas Cowboys shirt last year to school, and they were like, really? Really? And I never heard the end of it.
Yeah, it's funny. 2 weeks ago, Cowboys won a game. I hate to say they shouldn't have, but last week they won that game, the onside kick. The week before that, when they got beat up by the Rams, I showed up to practice, and Johan, I'll say his name, one of our linemen, stocky, 300. He's 340 last year. He's 300 now, 300 pounds. Very proud of him. He's done amazing work. Looks really good. Show up. He's wearing an Aaron Donald shirt. And so, Johan, you're off the team. Get out of here. And obviously, he knew I was kidding, but it pained me.
No, I'm a Bears fan, so I have nothing to say. We should be 1-1 right now.
Yeah.
with Mitch Trubisky. 'Cause it's funny, right before I got you on my podcast, I'm trying to do like a show where it's like NFL recap and college football recap. I'm trying to like do more. So
Yep.
right before you got on, I was like, let's talk about the Cowboys game. And I said, I want them to win. I'm so glad they did. Maybe this will push them to go do something.
I hope so. You know what I think is funny in the Twitter world, and I love Twitter. I think it's a blessing connecting with gentlemen like you, and throughout the world you can connect with some great people. And it's funny though because you hear people on Twitter. It's tough being a Cowboys fan because Sunday my wife and I were running some errands. The game had started, so she was driving. I'm scrolling on Twitter trying to find out. I speak English fairly well. That's all I speak. In Southern California, Cowboys fans, in Texas, whatever, a lot of them are Mexican, and a lot of the Twitter feed, I can't understand a single word. So, it'd be no bueno. I'm like, well, I get that. I get no good. But no bueno what? What's the score? What just happened? So it was nice to get home and be able to watch and see what was going on. But that last game with the Cowboys proved to me that, just like we tell our quarterbacks, a nicely thrown tight spiral is a beautiful thing, but a touchdown's a touchdown, a tackle's a tackle, a turnover's a turnover. It doesn't have to be pretty. So a win is a win. We'll take it.
I'm saying that with Mr. Trubisky. I'm like, win's a win, but I'm calling for Nick Foles too.
Yes.
So then, who's your favorite college team, if you have one? Or
yeah, I like the Ohio State. And the reason why I just like their, I hate to use this word swagger, but it came to mind. I just like the feeling about that. I'm a huge Notre Dame fan also. And there's no rhyme or reason to the teams I like. I love watching Army play. I love college football because I think it's pure. I mean, there's political stuff at every level, whatever. But I love the energy. I love the passion. I love you see the fans come out and stuff. I just love watching good football. I just love watching good football.
Yeah, I hate Ohio State, so that's why I was like,
yeah, I saw the cringe there. Well,
I respect him.
Ryan Day, who's the head coach now, was quarterback at University of New Hampshire, which was where I coached at Bedford High School, just an hour down the road. So we would have Coach Mack, the head coach of UNH, every year, and he and his staff would put on some great clinics for the high school team. So that's my only connection to Ryan Day. Don't know him personally. Not a big fan, and have nothing against him. But it's nice to see New Hampshire boy, coaching there.
Yeah, since I grew up in Illinois, we can't like Ohio State. We can't like Indiana.
You get disowned, right?
Do what?
You get disowned by your friends and community.
I respect Ohio State. You can't deny what they do. So I was like, but Notre Dame, the head coach I first coached for at Charleston, he's a Notre Dame fan, big Notre Dame fan. He goes to games. So I bought a shirt. I have it. I still get crap for that. But again, I said, you watch them. So they've grown on me. Growing up, you watched them. And so I have like two more, and that's it, I promise. Yep. So what advice would you give to a guy that's a head coach to build a program? You've built programs literally from the ground up, it seems like. So like long version, short version, it doesn't matter. Like what's important to you to build that? Because we're doing that now. Like the team's fallen on hard times for the past 4 or 5 years. The head coach come in, we're changing everything. Yep. Not changing everything, but he's building it. He's like, this is what we're going to do. Like I call it, there's a slab, there's been walls. Now we're just adding, because every school has it. We're just building. So what advice would you give to like build a culture in your program, like from the ground up?
Yeah. And the most important one to me is one that I thought I did correctly years ago. And then I realized after losing every game my first year and only 2 the second year, is to know your why. And that's why we coach. That I think it goes back to what you had mentioned earlier about going home mad at practice, yelling and screaming, and not being who you are. I feel like when you know your why as a coach, you can weather those tough parents, you can weather those tough losses, you can weather the tough administration. And I've been blessed to have great administration wherever I've been. I used to think knowing your why was enough until I realized that some of my players and assistant coaches didn't know their why. And it's different for everyone. Some people are coaching just for the win. And I'm not saying they're bad coaches to have on the staff, but they've got to understand that, in my opinion, if they're going to be on our staff, it's more than just a game. You can have tremendously successful years and have a losing record. I firmly believe that. So to know your why, help your players and your coaches to know their why, and to be yourself. You look at Bill Belichick. You talk about if they're on TV. I'm always watching the Patriots because I'm not a fan of the Patriots, but I have tremendous respect for Coach Belichick and all those players, the whole organization. I think how can you not? Um, if I try to be like Bill Belichick and not crack a smile and I don't know what he's like off camera behind closed doors, obviously, but I tell my players I love them all the time. Tell my students I love them all the time because I do. There are certain coaches at high school or collegiate or professional level who will never say that, who are winning championships. And I think you have to find out what makes you tick as a coach and be that person. Second thing I would say is, as building a program is it's all about the people. I'm a firm believer that every successful organization, family, school, program comes down to people loving people. And when you have people that are there for you, win or lose, good days or bad days, you're willing to run, as you mentioned, run through a wall for them because they love you, period. Not love you, ellipses, there's more to come. It's just, I love you. So that's the short answer.
Yeah, as I say, you could do a whole podcast on sports matter and building a program. So last thing, do you ever get crap for retweeting yourself? I heard Coach Schiffman ask you, so I had to bring that in there. I had to do that. I don't mind it. I love it.
That's a glitter twitch. I've never done that. No, it's I have. It's funny. I have, and at first, and it's funny. Coach Schiffman mentioned something about that on one of his tweets, and I brought it up on our podcast. He's like, "No, that wasn't about you." When I first saw his tweet, I was like, "Damn!" I was bothered by it. And I mentioned this on his. Same thing I teach my own children when they be bothered about something. I'm like, "Listen, if it's not true, don't worry about it. Or if you stand by it, don't worry about it." The reason I do, and this is a lame justification, but the reason I do is, especially growing up and coaching and living on the East Coast, now being on the West Coast, I realize that if I believe in what I'm sharing and I think it could impact someone in a positive way, my 5:30 a.m. post when I first get up in the morning here is 8:30 back east. Or my, hey, I'm going to bed now, it's 10:30 post here is 1:30 back east. So I see no harm in it. And once again, I think it goes back to the world is overpopulated with arrogant, cocky, hate-filled, negative people. And if we're putting stuff out there that we believe in, why not? And I equate it to, and I'm not comparing myself to a Nike, but Nike and other companies run their commercials all the time. Twitter's a free platform. If we believe in our message, why not put it out there again? So I'm embarrassed by that, but yeah, I'm standing by it.
No, like you said earlier, you're going to post what you want. You're going to do what you want. Who cares? It's not hurting anybody. And
Right.
sometimes I might miss a tweet. So if you retweet it.
And I don't think what I say is that important, but I do believe in what I share.
Love it. So, Coach, I guess this would be the last thing. What's going on in your world over there? I know you have a podcast. I know there's been stuff on Chief Pigskin. I think you guys have been posting. Yep. So if you want to promote that, talk about that, go right ahead. I tried to listen to it at school today. Don't tell anybody. I was listening to it, but don't tell anybody.
Absolutely. Yeah, Coach Mark Ty and I out here, we met in church. He's a baseball guy, so it's not a real sport. But I'm just kidding. I'm going to get a lot of hate for that. I say that because I played baseball for 1 year as a kid. I remember being at bat twice in practice, getting hit twice. I was that fat and that slow with my reaction time. And I kid you not, I remember the coaches saying, after me being hit in the elbow, go take your base. I remember thinking in second grade, what? You just hit me. That hurts. I want to hit him back. So I'm like, Mom, Dad, I got to play football. But Mark Ty and I, he's a great man. And we connected. I know nothing about baseball. He knows nothing about football. But we both love people and love our sports. So we do a podcast called For What It's Worth Coaching Podcast. And it's just, as we mentioned with my tweet, it's just that. If you like it, share it, retweet it, comment, whatever. If not, keep scrolling. We do that. And Coach Nate Arbaugh, if I'm saying his name right, for Chief Pigskin.
Arbaugh, yeah.
What is it?
Coach Arbaugh, yeah.
Okay, Arbaugh. All right, I was close enough. Great guy. Had me on one time and just reached out and said, "Hey, would you like to put your stuff on here?" And I think once again, if it's coaches helping coaches, you know, I think the coaches that are doing it right, the coaches that want to change lives, if we can support each other and put stuff out there and do things with each other, the more the merrier. So yeah, there, and I'm on probably more social media platforms than I'd like to admit, but Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I had to whisper the TikTok one. Do you know Gary Vee?
How do I know that name?
So he's I don't know if he's a billionaire or not or he's close, but he runs Vayner Media. He was one of the early investors in Twitter and like Uber and stuff like that. But I saw one of his videos and he's like, listen, he was talking to people my age. He's like, all you people said, oh, Twitter, or not Twitter, but Facebook's foolish and that's for the kids. And now everyone from 20 to 70 are on Facebook and you all poo-pooed Instagram and now you're all on Instagram. And his point that I took to heart was it's a free platform that allows you to get out there. He's like, if you don't want to do stupid dances on TikTok, don't do stupid dances. Put up the same content. And that's what I do now. So I put out the same foolish content, not foolish, but the same content. It's just on a different platform. So the way I look at it is I have some of my fourth graders that follow me on TikTok. And I love it because I'm not putting stuff out there that's inappropriate. I'm not putting stuff out there that I don't believe in. And I very often do share my faith. So if I put something out there that's near and dear to me, it's talking about depression or my faith or whatever, and one of my fourth graders sees it and just sticks with them, then more power to it.
I totally forgot about TikTok. I love some of the TikToks you did. I was like, oh yeah,
but
love it. No, I started listening to your podcast. I listened to it before. I was listening today at school. Don't tell my administrators. I was listening to it. No, Coach Allball story, then we can wrap it up. My senior year of high school, he was the head coach at Milford High School, and I had to play against his team, and they beat us by 1 point in overtime. So I was on one of his Chief Piskins under the light things, and I brought that up. He goes, oh, my God, you were on that team? And he goes, I'm old then, because that was 2008. And it was just a small world. He was like, I knew you from somewhere, and this, and that. And it's a small world. So that's how I know how to say his name. I remember him coaching there.
Yeah. The funny thing is, too, is just in the coaching world, I think, we're not that different from each other as far as coaches. I think there are, hate to use the term bad apples with all stuff going on as far as, personally, I support our police. But I'm getting political now. I really do. I think the great majority of them are great men and women who want to protect and serve. But there are jackwagon police officers who should never wear the badge. I think most coaches are great coaches, men and women. Some of them are jackwagons who only want to win games and use people. But I think it's a great fraternity, sorority group of people. And it's, as I said from the beginning, it's a blessing to connect with you.
No, I am completely honored. I geeked out. He's like, he's got to come on, clear my schedule. There's nothing going on. Well, Coach, that's all I had for you. Any last words, final thoughts, anything like that?
Just truly, thank you. It's humbling. It truly is because, as I said from the beginning, I'll go full circle. I am not an expert in anything, but passionate about a lot of things. So to share my passion, to be able to connect with you, I appreciate you. Thank you.
No, Coach, the honor. I can't believe you came on. I'm so happy that this happened. Got to meet you. It's great. Social media is great for something like this. Never would have met someone like you without social media, or like you said, me doing this podcast never would have happened. Never would have started. I'm a nobody coach in Chicago, and
talking to another nobody coach. So it's a pleasure doing business, so to speak.
Yeah, you got the better weather though, so you kind of win in that. So, all right, guys. So anybody out there listening, I appreciate you. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.